Hey, house stackers, welcome to episode 6 of the Stacking Houses podcast, where we're helping working professionals create a solid plan B, a side hustle of passive streams of income through real estate investing. I'm your host, Damon Santamaria, and my goal for each show is to provide you with some practical and inspiring information so that you can create a solid financial plan for yourself. So to help you on your journey, I want to give you a free copy of my book entitled How to Acquire Your First 10 Investment Properties. And you can pick this up simply by going to stackinghouses.com/book. And while you're there, you can also check out our free training where Jim and I are teach you how to find great deals in today's landscape. So today, Jim and I are going to discuss how to find and work with real estate agents so that they can help you find your first or your next property. And Jim is going to walk us through the methodology that he uses that has proven to be very successful. So Jim, welcome back to the show and tell us a little bit about your experiences working with real estate agents.
Damon, it's Friday. I'm excited. Big weekend coming up. Football just started last night. So let's go. House Stackers, great to be with you today. Hope you guys are doing well. I think for me, and I try to couch things like that because the wonderful thing about real estate is there are so many different ways to be successful, right? There are so many different elements of the business. And it's really a journey for most investors to find out what works for them. So hopefully, as we have this discussion, it may give you some inspiration. It may give you some things that work for you. But again, all market factors are very specific from a microeconomic perspective to where you're investing. So for me here in the Midwest, St. Louis, Missouri, Damon, I still find a lot of deals on the MLS. And a lot of, I've seen a lot of things, social media, people, different podcasts where that doesn't work for them. And I'm not sure, I don't want to judge wherever they're at, in the world, maybe those are different markets, but here in kind of the Missouri, Illinois area, there are good deals to be found on MLS. It does take a lot of searching. And so one of the things we talk about in our class, right, is some strategies around how to go find those things. But one of the things I would share with you is early on, I realized that, I really want my business to be more passive. And in order to do that, I had to be really, kind of shrewd or wise with my time. So I couldn't spend 6 hours on Zillow and the MLS looking for different properties, but I wanted to get people to bring qualified leads to me. And so the way I chose to do that and with some of my companies is we would set up a network of real estate agents. And for us, the magic number was 6. We never used more than 6 real estate agents. And we go to them and we partner with them and we tell them exactly what we're looking for, down to the area, the size, the price point, everything. And so we'd engage with them. And usually we'd start with something pretty small. I tell you, one tactic I would do is I would ask them if they would be willing to do a transaction deal. I'm not a real estate agent, but would they be willing to represent me on a transaction deal to buy or sell a house, which is obviously less than a commission piece. That was always a good indicator whether they were, interested to hustle, right? If you're willing to get in there and do a transaction deal, you're hungry. You're just trying to get business and trying to get deals. And so of those 6, go ahead, sorry.
No, just for our listeners, when you refer to a transaction deal, you're referring to a flat fee versus, a 3 or 6% commission as part of the buy or the sell, correct?
Absolutely. Sorry. Yes. Great call out. And so if you're selling, practically, let's say a $200,000 house, it's $200,000 flip. I'm already going to pay the buyer's agent's fee, right, at 2 to 2.5%. And then I'm going to incur 2 to 2.5% on the sales side. So, in that case, you're looking at $5,000 possibly on sales side, agent fees. And in a transaction deal, they may just run all the paperwork for you and the cost may only be like $1,500, $1,000. I keep the difference because I'm the one that's doing the open houses and negotiating with the agents. So it was a good indicator of how hungry they were to work with us. The next thing we would do then is grade them, score them on how many qualified leads they brought us in the course of a month. And so at our board meetings, when we sit down and talk, and it sounds grand, board meetings, when our owners get together and drink beer and have pizza and think about our real estate business.
Yeah, let's be honest about the situation here.
we pull up, this just simple kind of one pager that has their names, and then it has these, columns that represent their performance. And so one of them is absolutely bringing in qualified deals, and that should match the parameters that we're giving them. And as our parameters change, us communicating to that agent and then bringing it back. So let me pause there, because I know I'm dumping a lot, but that's kind of the broad structure that we have today.
Yeah, so that's interesting, and I want to bring it back to the mindset of a newer investor just starting out. And I'll kind of relate the story when I was, going back, 10 years ago, when I didn't know where to start. I literally walked into my neighborhood Keller Williams office, rang the bell on the desk, and I said, I want to be a real estate investor. Don't know where to start, but I heard that, if I work with an agent, they can send me, a daily email of, different properties that hit the MLS. And they said, absolutely. And they brought an agent that happened to be in the back. Her name was Janet. And Janet, she was a hardworking hustler, as you kind of described. And she literally showed me 50 properties before we found, the home run. And, thankfully, and that process took, 6 months, because, you've got to find the right property. And even with the property that I did find, there was a mechanics lien that was placed from a company that had gone out of business a long time ago. So listeners, don't give up on that process. But you've, with your businesses, obviously you have scaled up, and now you have, 6 agents. What was the first step, I guess, when you had to start off with one agent, right? Before you could start off with 6. So kind of take us through that first step, what you did.
Yeah, I think the first agent was someone we knew. It was a colleague already, someone we went to church with. And so there was a personal relationship. But I think for most people, a lot of people know, agents. And so it was sitting down with her and saying, hey, would you be willing to represent us in this transaction deal? And then starting to create expectation. I think it's really important, listeners, that, it's funny, I've been coaching a couple of our students in the last couple of months on this, not to feel like you have to be the guy, right? Or the person. Like, just go in, and Damon, like you were describing your story, just be transparent. And the reason for that is because expectation setting is so important in a relationship. And you don't need to feel like you've got the real estate industry completely figured out. A good real estate agent can save you thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars versus just thinking about it as an expense, right, of paying that out. So this agent, we began to, work with her, set those expectations, and she continued to bring us, good opportunities. Right now in the 6, I gotta be careful how I say this. She's probably midway, about halfway up in terms of what she's been able to provide. And a lot of what we're seeing now is more multifamily deals, and her specialty is single family. So I think that's probably part of where she is, but she understands what to bring us and what not to bring us. She understands that we may see 100 opportunities to go see 5 to buy 1, like you said, over the course of 3 to 6 months. But if you have 6 people doing that for you, then all of a sudden you're getting a deal a month, and that's huge.
So you spoke about relationships, and obviously you had a personal relationship with this first agent, right, through church. So what is the dynamic between the 6? Do they all know about each other? Is this like, sister wives, where, there's 6 sister wives and they all kind of share, Jim Garvin? What does that dynamic look like? And, is there any, I guess, conflict there, or do they get kind of jealous of one another if they do know of each other?
Yeah, I mean, excellent question. First off, I think, again, being completely transparent. we are now at a place where it's easy for me to describe to them, hey, this is how we work. This is how you get our business or not, right? We show actually the scorecard to all six, but everyone else's information is somewhat blurred. And we only do that about twice a year. I'm not trying to put, people on a scorecard or make them feel bad if they're in fifth or sixth place, but we're pretty open that if you're in that, fifth or sixth place on our list, you're probably going to get changed out.
Right.
In terms of, do they know each other? Do they interact? Not really. I mean, I'm sure they probably walk in circles, but again, the only thing they know is that we use six, and occasionally they'll see the report of how many deals they brought us, were they qualified, what was the customer service throughout, some of our other metrics. But the one thing I would also, because, here's another thing. I was coaching one of our clients out of Huntsville, Alabama last week, is, new investors, be careful when someone wants you to sign an exclusive representation agent. Don't sign it. And especially in this market, you do not want to limit yourself to just one agent being able to support you, because you really don't know yet how you work with them. And a lot of agents are really cool to be like, hey, it's mutual release. We'll end it whenever, but you don't want that hanging over your head. Yes, I will work with you, but it will not be exclusive when you sign that agency contract.
And you're talking on the buy side, not on the sell side, obviously.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent caveat.
Okay. So that's interesting. I think when there's some friendly competition, if you will, it makes people a little bit more motivated because they now know that they're on that scorecard and they're being brought up in the board meeting, and they know that if they are in fifth or sixth place, that they could be replaced. And given the volume of business that you do in the St. Louis market, it's probably business that they don't want to lose. So that's great to understand. Now, let me ask you: do you also, in addition to agents, do you work with any wholesalers or any other folks that can bring you deals in addition to the agents?
Typically we do. Since the eviction moratorium, it has been, a lot of the wholesalers have been pretty dried up here in our local region. And so work with them, but there's just not a lot of inventory out for them right now. To give you an example, I think it's House Sale St. Louis, housesalestl.com. George over there, he would run before pandemic, probably 10 open houses at a time. And meaning there's 10 opportunities for review and sale on his website at a time. He's been averaging somewhere around 1 to 2. Yeah. So yes, definitely love wholesalers, love the kind of properties they bring, which are really good, for REI, especially if you have some construction ability. They're usually pretty, dilapidated sort of D sort of inventory most of the time. But it's been tough recently to use them. One other thing I want to go back to on the scorecard was the two columns that we don't blank out from the other agents is number of deals closed and total dollars closed. I want the other agents to know, with these other agents, I did 7 deals for $700,000, whatever that number is, right? Because your point about competitiveness, I want them to see that as a missed opportunity. Jim Garvin has X amount of buying power, and I wasn't able to capitalize on using that by bringing him the right opportunities. The other thing I would say with them that we're really transparent about is, and it's kind of funny because I have one agent who's British, and she's very funny about how she manages this, but we're just very transparent about how much money we have to spend at one time. We only have X amount of capital. We're out there trying to generate capital from others, but I don't want to waste their time either. And so, she'll send me a couple things, and I'll say, her name's Nikki. I say, hey, Nikki, we're probably, 65 to 90 days away. 65 sounds so specific, 70 to 90 days away from being able to look at deals. And she thanks me for that, because now she's not wasting her time with me, and she's sending it to other, investors that are clients of hers. So sorry, lots of things and all that, but some other things to think about.
No, definitely. Yeah. And, you bring up some excellent points about the competitive piece to it. Let's kind of transition to, I guess, off market deals. I mean, are these agents able, in today's landscape, it's just really hard to find, good inventory. And that's, your point about wholesalers and that market really drying up. It's because the inventory is so low. Are some of these agents able to provide you with, off market or pocket listings, if you will, or, so it's not as competitive that, that it's, I guess, easier to acquire these properties?
What I've noticed, that's a great question. What I've noticed is that, you know, the agents and brokers that we've decided to partner with are also very active on the sales side, right? And they're also very established that people come to them and say, "Hey, what would you sell my house as? How would you sell it?" The way we've built our relationships actually puts us first in the queue. That I'm thinking of one agent, she's actually in a recording in our interview in our class, Abby. Abby knows that if a seller comes to them and wants to sell a house for way too much, or wants to sell a house that is dilapidated, or wants to sell a house that's a hoarder, that it will be very, very difficult, right, to get them. She knows that we can help that seller get out of that house quickly and take all the headache. We'll buy it as is, right, with all the different issues. We'll actually have our people come in and do the complete clean out. Especially think about the situation when grandma and grandpa dies. Kids don't want to mess with everything's there. And so we have, I think the simple answer or long-winded answer to your question is yes, we are seeing that from this partnership strategy, we are one of the first in lines to get their pocket listing off market listings.
Yeah. Yeah. Excellent. And, these agents are interconnected, especially in their own office. And, a lot of times you'll establish a reputation or relationship in that other agents know that Abby has a guy that will buy this dilapidated house, and it's an easy referral. It's an easy way to, get inventory that otherwise 98% of the population doesn't even want to touch. And if that's, if that's your market and you're able to, I guess, accommodate the grandchildren or the children of the grandparents, or the family of the hoarder, you're solving a very specific problem in the market, and you'll be rewarded for that. So that's excellent information.
Cool.
Yeah. All right. Any other pearls of wisdom that you'd like to share with the audience today?
No, I think the last, or kind of bring it back to a point I already stated, but just to reemphasize it, is you're starting out on your journey, or maybe you're 2 to 3 houses in trying to scale to 10. It is so important, I think, to have a view on what you're going to look. If you're going to use the MLS strategy, if you're going to use the agent strategy, to know what you're looking for, or at least focus in, because there is a lot of time that can be spent on going and seeing properties that don't make sense for you. We talk about in our course how to look at an area, do an analysis, do a pro forma beforehand of the general, price point and rents, and that gives you a good sense for what a deal could look like. Be focused, do the pre-work to know, does this area work for me? Because again, we want to keep it passive, and we don't want to waste a lot of time on things that don't make sense, even if they're pretty houses, but are never going to make sense for a rental. So that would be my only, piece of advice, is learn how to do that. If you don't, set up some coaching time with Damon or I, go sign up for our course. We give you the step-by-step way to do that analysis and dig in and be specific, and be, covetous with your time.
Awesome. All great points, Jim, as usual. So listeners, hopefully you're able to walk away with some new tidbits, some new ideas that you're able to implement as you begin to build your business, because agents can be an excellent way to find great deals. And in closing, I mentioned at the beginning of the show, Jim and my goal is to provide you with some incredible value. So For today's episode, I want to give you a free copy of my book entitled How to Acquire Your First 10 Investment Properties. You can pick that up simply by going to stackinghouses.com/book and check out our course and our blog and everything else that's all the other resources on stackinghouses.com. So until next time, this is Damon and Jim with stackinghouses.com, and happy investing.
Like and subscribe.